Hello, this is Min Hee-Jin. This is my first time writing from a personal perspective since the press conference. The reason I am writing in this informal manner rather than using the rigid format of an official statement is that the nature of the matter I want to clarify involves important context that cannot be effectively conveyed through a formal statement. I myself find it puzzling and somewhat regrettable that I have to share these details with an unspecified audience. However, since April 22nd, have been experiencing bewildering days and feel it is necessary to minimize misunderstandings and correct the false claims made by HYBE in court. Given that you might have already seen my straightforward personality during the press conference, I will speak candidly. The reason why honesty is even more crucial in this letter is that the essence of the matter at hand is far from being strictly serious, stern, or grave. I am the one who actually experienced these events. I reject the prejudice that serious matters are being taken lightly. First, let me address the issue related to Naver and Dynamo. My acquaintance, Mr. A, invited me to dinner at 7:30 p.m. on March 6, 2024. Mr. A assured me not to feel uncomfortable as his longtime friends would be joining us. The friends of Mr. A that I met were older and quite at ease. During the meal, one of Mr. A's acquaintances mentioned that they had invited another friend, but I had no idea who was coming. About an hour later, the person arrived, and initially, I did not recognize them. When they introduced themselves, I learned that they were Mr. C, from Dynamo. I remembered that this person had expressed a desire to meet me through Chairman Bang Si-hyuk some time ago. Mr. C mentioned that they wanted to attend the dinner because they knew I would be there and were interested in new jeans and curious about me as the producer. Additionally, although I was unaware at the time, Mr. B from Naver, who was friends with all the attendees, was also contacted and came to the dinner. This gathering was thus formed independently of my intention and ended as a private, non-investment related occasion, which all attendees can testify to. Contrary to HYBE's grand media campaign, my encounter with Mr. C from Dynamo is limited to that single instance. On what grounds does HYBE, who was not present at this meeting, make these false claims? Mr. C mentioned that he wanted to visit New Jeans' Tokyo Dome concert, and our conversation ended with a brief exchange about the Tokyo Dome performance. With Mr. B, we only exchanged a few personal messages after that. On my way home after the dinner, I mentioned to Vice President L about the people I happened to meet that day. Upon hearing this, Vice President L casually suggested that it might be better for both HYBE and ADOR if a company like Dynamo, which has invested in HYBE, owned ADOR. However, this idea is practically impossible. Above all, we know very well that it cannot be realized without HYBE's consent. Given that I met Mr. C from Dynamo for the first time that day, it was impossible to discuss such matters. Regardless of its feasibility, hearing this idea gave me a brief sense of relief. As the head of ADOR, I have felt like ADOR was subtly bullied and ostracized within HYBE. I wonder if merely imagining escaping from an inescapable perpetrator is a crime. I live in a world where thoughts are not censored, so I do not understand what the issue is. I even feel inclined to censor the thoughts of HYBE executives. Vice President L, who joined ADOR, was surprised to learn about the subtle harassment and exclusion ADOR faced within HYBE. L asked me, "How have you managed to endure all this time?" Because of this, Vice President L and I discussed ways and strategies to avoid harassment from HYBE. However, HYBE maliciously captured and edited this conversation to make it appear as if we were plotting something grand. It is unbelievable that I have to explain such a personal meeting story in such detail as if defending against a major crime. Have you found the truth about the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund you were so seriously asserting? It is astonishing that HYBE is involving people who are also acquaintances of ours, putting them in difficult positions and exploiting the situation. Is it reasonable to think that an acquisition proposal could be made to people I happen to meet for the first time at a casual dinner with acquaintances? As I repeatedly say, if there is a need for confirmation, I request a four-party meeting that includes HYBE. I have never made such a proposal to Naver or Dynamo, so HYBE should verify with Naver or Dynamo whether they have ever received an acquisition proposal. Instead of confirming just the meeting, you should confirm the purpose of the meeting and the conversation exchanged. Given my past experiences, I mentioned this because I thought there could be headlines playing word games like, admits to meeting Naver and Dynamo anyway. You are well aware that when I said, I did not meet investors, it meant I did not meet them with the intention of taking over management rights. I hope you do not fall for obvious word games. People have various social statuses, CEO, lawyer, doctor, teacher, etc. For example, if it is a school parent meeting, no matter who attends, be it a representative from an investment firm, the meeting remains a parent meeting, not a lawyer meeting or an investor meeting. Even if I met with investors, what is the problem with a company's CEO or vice president meeting with investors? Do you scrutinize and suspect the presidents of other subsidiaries within HYBE for meeting investors like this? Have you audited those who frequently visit room salons and Tenpro establishments to entertain investors and business partners? And before the audit, why were there no proposals for meetings or oral inquiries? There was ample reason to discuss it through internal whistleblower documents, so why did you never request a meeting? According to the content of the right to investigate subsidiaries under the Commercial Act, it states, considering the independence of the subsidiary and the parent company's audit committee should first request an investigation report from the subsidiary. If the subsidiary does not comply with the investigation report request or the report content is insufficient, the parent company can conduct a direct audit. Why did HYBE conduct an illegal audit, risking a drop in stock prices? I also want to point out that the evidence HYBE presents is all illegally obtained. No matter how much you insist or forcefully argue, you cannot turn something that didn't happen into something that did. Please move beyond the frame of distorting facts with word games like, did you meet with investors or not? Complex human affairs and relationships cannot be explained by a few randomly cut and pasted KakaoTalk messages. There is no reason to make excuses, and it's not a matter that needs explanation. People who don't know my personality, usual tone, joking or playful style, the situation I was in, and the context of the conversation should not simply judge and evaluate. Anyone would find themselves in the same situation if they were edited and manipulated by HYBE's lowly methods. New jeans, and I have experienced numerous events and various situations that you cannot know. I cannot explain all of them here, nor do I need to. Unnecessary explanations would involve discussing others' private matters and create further conflicts, causing more harm, which is unnecessary. We have been tormented by countless things that you all do not know, but our relationship has become stronger and more resilient through many internal struggles that others cannot even imagine. In a way, even after working in the i-dle business for over 20 years, it seems like this business, which is still not fully understood, has made us this way. In a biased business environment, doing business with young friends, using other people's money, was a challenge beyond imagination. Most people are not born rich. Except for a few, most of us grew up in ordinary households, and raising funds for business with our own money is like reaching for the stars. It is a skill to attract investment with talent when you have no money. Starting a business with investment received is not a crime, and even though we repaid more than 10 times the initial investment within an extremely short period, and returned with immeasurable value that cannot be calculated in monetary terms, I cannot understand why I should fall prey to ridiculous framing, such as betrayal, or plunder, just because I started with the initial investment. What happened to the value I provided to HYBE? Wasn't it because they wanted that value that they hired me? The i-dle business I experienced was full of contradictions. Balancing profit-seeking while ensuring the well-being of young friends is never easy. If I had less obsession, it might have been easier, and if it were just a simple role as a salaried CEO, it might not have been so difficult. My passion, which did not want to tarnish everything with unnecessary responsibility, became a poison, making me blame myself countless times, but looking back on what has passed, there is no situation that leaves regrets. Going through all these processes, which were both tormenting and difficult yet enjoyable and challenging, New Jeans and I have become like a family, but with a solidity and bond beyond simple familial relationships. Therefore, our relationship can only be described as more than what you may think. After being attacked with manipulated KakaoTalk conversations, members of our team sent me messages of comfort and love. These were not just words of comfort, they were overflowing with love. The messages of comfort continued until the next morning. The reason I cried out loud was not because I was misunderstood and cursed by strangers, but because it was heartbreaking to see everyone involved in such terrible, unjust situations. It is regrettable that some people fall for obvious manipulations, but I don't think it is the fault of those who accept it. But for those of you who may have some consideration for New Jeans, what you can do is to try to prevent the members from being emotionally affected by such unbelievable incidents as much as possible. Someone might easily say that I should just give up, but if you hold on to your humanity and think about it again, and think about the situations we have gone through and faced, it's not something we can do. Every day, I think about who this serves and what it's for, thousands of times. While it might have been easy to compromise and work under conditions where adequate financial compensation was guaranteed after the term ended, I proceeded with the internal disclosure, despite the risks, because there are values I want to uphold. Would someone whose main concern is money go through the trouble of internal disclosure and fight for it, and then try to pursue legally impossible means that requires HYBE's approval? It doesn't add up. No matter how many times I say that money was not my primary concern, those who don't know me will think as they please. Even if someone tries to discredit me, anyone who knows me will understand. I believe that more than any words, my future decisions and actions will represent my thoughts. I don't want to persuade those who misunderstand this situation in a petty manner, but I say these things because it's certain that the values I cherish are more than just money. Those who know the processes, decisions, and judgments I have made over the years will understand. Honestly, I wanted to leave this industry filled with absurdity countless times, regardless of money or anything else. I have no desire to package myself to those who don't know me. Experiencing this ordeal, I once again feel despondent about why I've been fighting so hard and carrying on with this work. But I remind myself that I've always stood for what's right and persevered. HYBE has already put the New Jeans team in a difficult situation. Frankly, those who have brought us to this point are terrible and disgusting. Humans are not dolls. They cannot be dehumanized by someone's judgment or stamp. Each person's life is precious, and it's not for people who have never worked together to pass judgment. No matter how much HYBE wants to portray me as a witch, they don't know me better than themselves. Conflict may be an unavoidable choice in life. Despite disliking conflict, I'm one of those who genuinely feel sorry for all the conflicts in the world. Conflict may be painful, but it can also be an essential process for a better leap forward. I am usually introspective, but if I gather as much positive energy within me as possible and think about it, shouldn't I accept this absurd reality in the same context? I do not seek sympathy or support from any particular faction or gender just because I am facing difficulties. Human individuality is not solely determined by gender. I believe differences in characteristics lead to different existences. I am a person who thinks and reflects a lot. Therefore, anyone who knows me can feel that my thoughts and philosophies cannot be arbitrarily truncated using fragmented and contextless snippets of conversation. Due to these traits of mine, I prefer to work with small groups or minorities whenever possible. The members with whom I directly communicate in concrete terms, aside from ADOR and myself, are around 5 or so. This seems to be due to personal trauma. Strangely, I have consistently endured various stresses from those who falsely speak about me, even though I rarely engage in activities outside of work. Because of my history of seeking treatment due to not enjoying alcohol, smoking, or entertainment and not knowing how to relieve stress, I minimized interactions as a form of self-defense. As a result, despite hardly ever directly communicating with HYBE members outside of ADOR, I was quite puzzled to hear reports of people falsely claiming to have worked with me or spreading rumors about me as if they had met me in person. However, I want to express my sincere gratitude for the cautiously conveyed messages of support from other HYBE team members. During this ordeal, I was reminded of something Park Ji-won, the CEO, once said in passing. It was eerie how thoughts about how well he had handled restructuring at his previous job and why certain precautions were necessary suddenly came flooding back to me. I had dismissed those matters as irrelevant at the time, but I never expected them to come back like this. HYBE conducted a pre-forensic examination of the laptop I received when I joined and returned 2 years ago after resetting it without my consent before the audit, delving into my personal life and sharing it with others, including in audit documents. What does this have to do with events before the establishment of ADOR? Furthermore, I heard that despite knowing that dozens of reporters were attending the public trial, certain individuals chose to selectively disclose and dramatize only a few snippets of personal conversations, without making any legal arguments. From what I later heard from those present in court, the fact that someone could go as far as to disclose private information and damage one's privacy and reputation to such an extent is chilling. They recklessly disclosed personal information from before the establishment of ADOR to the public, illegally took the deputy CEO's laptop to find ammunition against me, threatened and coerced the deputy CEO, and even pressured UDO members to enter their homes late at night and demand their personal phones, as well as fabricating and leaking unrelated private conversations. Despite all this, they distributed articles claiming to protect members. I wonder what the real intent of the audit was. Please focus on the essence of the matter. If genuine auditing was the goal and evidence of usurping management rights had been obtained, there would have been no need for a massive media spectacle. It would have sufficed to swiftly and quietly handle the situation with accurate evidence and proper audit processes, then announce the results externally. This would have prevented the stock price from falling and negated the need for further discord. The essence of the current dispute lies in addressing a serious problem that has arisen, jeopardizing the future of myself and many others, and reaching a solution through the best possible means. This is not a trial by public opinion based on fragmented and biased information and fabrications. We are currently in the midst of a legal dispute. It's a time when we must await the judge's judgment based on factual relationships. While I have not seen the petition submitted by Chairman Bang Si-hyuk, the headline stating "evil" caught my attention. It reminded me once again of how different the connotations of the same word can be. Too many articles are being derived from baseless facts. Once baseless articles are published, even though they are not true, they become the frame, leading to the need to publish articles to explain them, and it's easy to be swayed by the arguments of those who first made the attack. Since it's difficult for the public to discern what is true amid indiscriminate articles, it's best to calmly await the court's ruling and then proceed accordingly. I apologize for unavoidably causing concern. Thank you.